Hey guys, I hope you're doing well tonight. Before we dive into things, I want to kick tonight off with a little story time because chances are, if you wound up here, you'll be able to relate to the absurdity that inspired me to start this show. So, my chronic illness started when I was 10 years old. By middle school, it was sad. I was more familiar with a doctor's office than I was with a classroom. I had a whole host of issues that nobody could figure out why I was growing up. But the doctor that deserves the award for most useless goes to the GI doctor I saw when I was about 18 years old, which coming from me is a hard title to earn. Because if you saw the doctors I met with over the years, you'd think these hospitals bulk ordered them from Wish. So, what I'm about to share with you guys is word for word what this doctor told me at my first appointment with him. And I know that it's been over 10 years, but I still vividly remember how bad this experience was. So after waiting months to get in to see this guy, I walk in and I gave him my personal health history, my family health history, my symptoms list. I gave him every single minor detail I had stored in my brain that could possibly help him figure out what was wrong with me. And he started off by saying, "I'm sorry to hear that. You know, the mind is a very powerful tool and it's capable of many things." And innocent 18-year-old me is sitting over here thinking, okay, we're off to a decent start. You know, he sounds kind of empathetic, and maybe this is going to be some sort of pep talk before we come up with a game plan for testing. Or maybe he's going to give me some kind of insight into what he thinks is wrong with me. No, no. This is where the appointment dropped off a cliff. The next words out of this dude's mouth were, "Sometimes, if you believe in something hard enough, you can make it come true. The reason you have all of these symptoms, yet the majority of your previous labs have been negative, is because you believe in them and you're focusing on them. And that's the root cause of your issues." Like, excuse me? What? You're telling me that you graduated from medical school, and that's the most logical conclusion you can offer me? I swear I should have started asking my doctors to cite their sources after that. And you know, to this day, I don't think I'm the only one he did that with either, because after talking with the office, they refunded my copay suspiciously quick and they had no follow-up questions. Which, if you've ever tried to get your money back for anything medical related, you know what a hassle and a process it usually is. That was definitely a red flag. And the really sad part is I know I'm not the only one with a story like that. You probably have a story like that of your own, or know somebody who's had a similar experience. That's why I'm here right now. That's what inspired me to bring this concept I'd had for a long time to life, because this is where I feel content. Helping you guys navigate the resistance and the ignorance you've faced to the point where you just want to give up because it seems easier. For a long time now, I've been thinking about the best way to reach people, to teach them how to advocate for themselves. Because as someone who suffered for 16 years unnecessarily, I wanted to provide the resources I wish I could have had back then when I was at my worst. Because all I wanted when I was in the midst of my health issues was to feel like I wasn't alone, and to learn how to hold my ground as a patient who was only ever met with obstacles instead of answers. I had undiagnosed Cushing's disease due to multiple pituitary tumors. Your pituitary gland sits just below your brain and it produces several major hormones. Um, it creates a really delicate balance of those hormones to keep you functioning and alive. And sometimes you can develop tumors that cause an overproduction of those hormones. Unfortunately for me, mine developed tumors on it that produced a hormone called ACTH, which is the body's signal to produce more cortisol, and that's your body's stress hormone. It causes a nearly endless list of symptoms from head to toe, and over time, that chronic overproduction of cortisol, it's like battery acid to your body's cells. It just eats away at them. Sometimes the damage left in its wake is permanent. Sometimes, if you're lucky enough, it's reversible. It would take me at least this entire episode to list every way that it attacks your body, but if you're curious to know more about it, I do have a document with some info listed on my website under the Resources tab. The info is in the bottom of the document called When Your Labs Are Normal. So, after having brain surgery in the beginning of 2022 to put my Cushing's disease into remission, it took a really long time to get to a place where I could start to function again, physically speaking. And because the healing process is really slow, I had a lot of time to think. I spent a lot of time angry at everything. I was angry at my former doctors for missing this for so long. I was angry at myself because I couldn't be the type of mother and wife that I wanted to be. I was angry at strangers because they judged me before they knew my story. And this last one, I'm ashamed to admit because it's not their fault and it's totally irrational, but we're only human, right? I was angry at people who had their health, people who could do things that I could no longer do. And well, it took a really long time to get to a place where I felt at peace with my situation. I wasted so much energy being angry that it was actually setting back my ability to heal. So instead of being angry, I decided to ask myself what I needed. You know, a big part of my mental healing began in therapy after I had finally received the physical treatment that I needed. Because the mental aftermath of what I went through was, in some ways, it was worse than the physical. It was actually a blessing, though, in more ways than one. Because the person who gave me the push I needed to finally act on the idea of this show was my therapist. I'm going to be bringing her up sometimes because she's been a pretty important part of my journey. I can't share her real name, so we'll just go ahead and use her nickname, Z. Anyway, Z, if you're listening, thank you for helping me find the confidence to do this. And you're welcome in advance for all the new ammunition I'm definitely about to give you, which I feel like you could use anyway because our dynamic has gotten a little too positive lately. I find myself walking into our sessions now almost excited. And the self-destructive tendencies in me just can't have that. Anyway, for the life of me, I couldn't decide where I wanted to start with this first episode. There are so many issues that we face that are close to my heart, but I think it only makes sense to start at the beginning, with your initial doctor's appointment. So today, we'll be covering everything you can do to make sure that your first appointment goes as smoothly as possible. So the first tip I have for you guys is getting organized. If you ever have to see more than one doctor, you will thank me for this later because it will save you so much time and energy. Now, I won't lie, it might take a little bit of work up front, but the beauty of it is that you can reuse it at every appointment you go to moving forward. It's much less intimidating to go into your appointment when you have everything prepared in a way that limits your need to think on your feet. Because I know for me, whenever I went to an appointment unprepared, I became flustered, I forgot to mention things, I couldn't find the right words, and overall I'd kind of just freeze up. And all that just stressed me out even further, so then it would just kind of like snowball. So I started attending all of my appointments with a medical history binder that contained everything I could ever need in it. It helped take some of that pressure off of me during my appointments, so if you'd like to create one for yourself, I'll go over a list of all the things that it should include. The first thing you're going to want in your binder is a list of major questions and concerns. So if you're anything like me, you probably have a lot of thoughts coming to you throughout the week about what you should bring up with your doctor. But the second you step into their office, it's like someone just wipes your mental browser history clean. Every thought you rehearsed, just gone. So to avoid that and to make sure that you're able to clearly articulate those thoughts, take time to write them down as they come to you prior to your appointment. The second thing you're going to want in your binder is a list of all medications and supplements that you're taking and the dosage. Your doctor can't adequately assess the full picture of what's going on if they don't have all the info that they need. So if you're taking any medication or supplements, be sure to include those, especially things like biotin, which is actually in a lot of multivitamins and supplements. Biotin is a big thing that can actually skew your lab results, so this is a pretty important step you don't want to skip. The third thing you're going to want in your binder is a detailed list of your symptoms. No matter how small, you're going to want to list all of your symptoms in the order of most bothersome to least bothersome, because it's not your job to determine which pieces of information are important enough to give to your doctor and what you should leave out. Your symptoms are clues into what is going on inside your body, and if it's happening often enough for you to notice, definitely include it. Present all the facts and then let your doctor be the judge of what's useful and what's not. The fourth thing you're going to want in your binder is a detailed symptoms timeline. So starting from when your first set of symptoms began up until your most recent set of symptoms. I found it helpful to also include with that a list of any major life events that may have triggered or influenced your symptoms. Speaking of triggers, the next thing you're going to want is a list of symptoms triggers. If anything that you do makes your symptoms better or worse, sometimes those external factors can help give insight into what's going on in the body. If you notice any patterns, that can be useful in narrowing down the list of possible illnesses. And if you notice that anything relieves or worsens your symptoms, or that your symptoms happen at a certain time of day or during a certain activity, be sure and share that information with your doctor. The sixth thing you're going to want in your binder are any previous labs that you've had done, especially if you've had lab work done at like a different doctor's office or an outside facility, because the new doctor you're seeing isn't going to have access to that. You can print and bring along your previous labs and then request that they scan them into your new patient file. That way your new healthcare team will have a very thorough medical history on you. And the last thing you're going to want in your binder are before and after pictures, or like a photo journal. If you experienced any physical changes due to your illness, whether that be like weight fluctuations, skin rashes, hair loss, swelling, injuries of any kind, it's helpful to show the timeline of changes with that visual aid if you have pictures of before and after. That way you won't need to rely on simply describing what changed and then hope your doctor understands. You can make an album for this in the gallery on your phone, or if you prefer to print, you can go ahead and print physical copies and take those with you, whichever you prefer. The second tip that I have for you guys is to take time to thoroughly research your doctor. Now, I'm not saying you need to search up their social media and learn about their favorite kind of ice cream or what their dog's name is. But make sure that they specialize in what your issue is and that they at least have good online reviews. When I was at my worst, I couldn't fathom waiting to see a doctor. Every day that crawled by felt too long already, and it just ended up feeling like wasted time. Literally anyone who would take me, I tried to book with. I didn't bother checking Google reviews or talking to anyone I knew who might have previously seen them. I just wanted to know something was on the books so that I could have something to look forward to. And so maybe I could stop crying for a few hours because some type of relief might actually be in sight. But a lot of the time, it ended up biting me in the ass because that day would arrive and that appointment would be the exact opposite of everything that I'd hoped. Then come to find out later that doctor had terrible reviews or didn't have what I believe my issue to be in their list of specialties. So not only did I end up wasting my time, I also ended up wasting my copay. It's really hard to have patience when your body feels like it's broken and you aren't sure how you're going to continue to make it through the day. I know that. But I promise you will save yourself a lot of heartache and frustration if you don't decide who to see based on who will take you the earliest. You want to increase your chances of having a good appointment by finding someone who's going to be most likely to meet your needs as their patient. In fact, I want to start a document organized by state and city. If you feel like emailing in the name of your doctor and the city that they're located in and then the condition they treated you for, please do. You can find my email on my website, thatsickchickadvice.com. It'll be under the contact tab. You don't have to say your name or like any personal identifying info, just the name of your doctor that you liked, the condition that they treated you for, and the city they're located in. I'll go ahead and compile all that info into one large document, and then I'll post that under the resources tab on my website. That way we can all help each other out, because finding a good doctor can be incredibly difficult and stressful. And I swear, it's like an unspoken law of the universe that every time you find a doctor you actually like, they're either about to retire or they're moving. Something happens to where they can't be your doctor anymore. Like the last doctor I had, I absolutely adored, but he decided to leave medicine after about 1 year to teach. So as soon as I got comfortable with him, I had to find a new doctor. I'm still looking for a new doctor, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so the next tip I have for you guys that I think is crucial is that you're going to want to make sure you bring support to your appointment. It's much less intimidating to visit the doctor if you go with a friend or a family member, really anyone you trust that can support you emotionally. They can also help advocate for you if you need them to, especially if you find yourself to be more passive or easily intimidated during your appointments. That was definitely me. If you're unable to physically bring anyone with you, FaceTiming them during your visit or calling them is also a viable option. That way they can still be in the room with you and speak to the doctor as well. It can be really anxiety-inducing to go alone, and that's not something that you need to be ashamed of. But taking the steps that I mentioned can definitely help ease some of that anxiety. And I've also found that doctors are more open to your requests and suggestions when there's another party present at your appointment. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I have this theory that it has to do with accountability, but it's just a theme that I've noticed. And I know that, at least for me, I always hated the idea of going to the doctor alone. Like, it actually got to the point where I would anticipate getting steamrolled in my appointment if I went by myself. I never felt like I could truly speak my mind to my doctor because anytime that I used to, they'd talk down to me or they'd treat me like I was incompetent. And let me just make what I am about to say perfectly clear. Any doctor who treats you like they know more about your own body than you do, when they have not lived in your body and experienced firsthand what you are going through, is just showing you up front that they're closed-minded. If you ever encounter a doctor that thinks they've learned all there is to know, run. I'm not kidding, like, run away from them. Because nobody, I don't care who you are or how many degrees you have or what life experience you have, nobody is above knowledge. And as a doctor, the second you start to believe that is the second you break your oath to your patients. Because I swear, a willful ignorance is almost always followed by some type of harm. And the fourth and final tip I have for you guys tonight is to leave with a clear game plan. You're going to see your doctor with a goal in mind, whether it's a referral to a specialist, a script for labs or other testing, some type of treatment for your symptoms in the meantime. Whatever it is, you don't want to walk out of your appointment feeling like it was a waste. So before you leave, make sure your doctor gives you a clear plan moving forward about how they plan to handle your case. And if you don't like the answer, be sure to request that they note the problem you have with that in your chart before you leave. Like if you were refused further testing or a referral. Requesting that something be noted in your chart is a right you have as a patient, and some people don't know that. It can be intimidating going to the doctor, especially for those of us who are chronically ill. So if this is your first appointment in regards to a new illness, or even your 100th appointment in regards to a chronic illness, taking the steps I mentioned can make it easier to get you the help you need. If you need any special assistance or just someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to reach out to me through my website, thatsickchickadvice.com. Never feel like you can't ask for help. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please feel free to subscribe and share. Now, your financial status dictates a lot of things in this world, but it shouldn't dictate your ability to get help. especially when it comes to something as important as your health. So, all the documents and resources listed on my website are free. If you'd like to donate, though, I do have a donations tab on my website. No amount is too small. If you're unable to donate, just know that I still find infinite value in your support, and I thank you for being here. Keep fighting, my beautiful souls. Until next time.